made you believe your life is bound by fixed laws, that nothing can change without years of struggle or impossible luck. But the truth, hidden in restricted circles and mocked by the media, is that there's a mechanism capable of rewriting not only your future, but also your past. A silent code the spiritual elite has mastered for centuries, shifting your inner frequency until the world around you is forced to reorganize. While the masses remain trapped in cycles of scarcity and fear, a few already live in realities where time and space bend to their will. And here's the shock. You already tap into these states without realizing it, but you've been trained to ignore them. Every thought you hold is an invisible command to the universe, and it obeys. The question is, will you keep reflecting the programming they planted in you, or will you take control and step into the dimension that has always been yours by right before they erase this knowledge forever?
The visible world is not solid, it is malleable, unstable, and responds with precision to what is sustained in consciousness. This statement is not a poetic metaphor, but an observation that deconstructs the materialist foundation upon which much of civilization rests. Everything that is perceived as physical reality is, in truth, a reflection of the vibrational frequency that is maintained within. This is not about motivational belief, but about an invisible architecture in which every event, every coincidence, and every detail is shaped by internal states of consciousness. What keeps most people imprisoned in the same scenario, repeating problems and patterns, is not the force of external circumstances, but the inability to recognize that these circumstances are effects, not causes. As long as one believes that the world is independent of the mind, profound change remains out of reach. This is why speaking of changing dimensions is not limited to science fiction or obscure mysticism. It is about understanding that a dimension is a state of consciousness, and that transitioning between dimensions means radically altering the way one perceives, interprets, and sustains reality. This transition does not happen by accident. It requires a shock of perception, the understanding that everything has already been created, and that the only variable that defines what is experienced is the vibrational frequency of consciousness itself. Here, frequency is not just an analogy. It is the language through which mind and matter correspond. Just as a radio station can only transmit what it is tuned to receive, the individual only experiences experiences that correspond to the internal state they maintain. Behind the scenes of this reality, subtle laws govern the process: the law of assumption, the hermetic principle of mentalism, and retrocausality. Together, they reveal that past, present, and future are not fixed lines, but simultaneous layers that reconfigure themselves as consciousness shifts. Quantum physics, with the double-slit phenomenon, has already exposed a glimpse of this. Matter has no defined form until it is observed, and this observation or expectation shapes the outcome. This connection between science and spirituality is not accidental. For centuries, esoteric traditions have preserved, under symbolic language, the same truth that modern experiments are beginning to indicate. The universe is mental, and consciousness is the only substance from which everything is made. Understanding this shifts the individual's role from victim of circumstances to conscious creator of their experience. However, this revelation has implications that few are willing to accept. If reality is shaped by the internal state, then every event, no matter how external it seems, was somehow selected by consciousness itself. This includes what is interpreted as unfair, painful, or accidental. Here begins the discomfort. Assuming that nothing is completely random also means assuming that the power to rewrite any aspect of life is in one's own hands, or more precisely, in one's own mind. What is at stake, therefore, is not just manifesting something desired, but transcending the dualistic paradigm that separates light and darkness, good and evil, possible and impossible. This is the breaking point where the deepest layers of consciousness begin to reveal an